Climb aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. We are at a destination far, far away from home for at least two of the three people sitting here. On a little off-site trip talking about Built at the Hyatt Regency Lost Pines in Austin, but that's not our topic for today. Though since we're all in the same place, we dragged Gary Leff back on the show with us this week, View from the Wing, and also my partner in crime on the Freddy Awards. As you guys both know, we didn't have a Freddy Awards in 2024, so we're going to go over the 2023 voting results and talk a little bit about where we think things are right now. But short term, thank you for bringing us down to Texas. This is my first time at Lost Pines. You had been here back in the pandemic, you said, right?
Yeah, family, kids and wife and I spent a week here homeschooling and working remote from the Lost Pines. So when it came time to pick another place to go, I really, really enjoyed our week here. There's a ton of amenities, things for everybody to do, which you guys are getting a taste of, and knew we wanted to come back here.
And you've been here before as well, right?
Been here a bunch of times. I've been here a couple of times already this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in Austin. This place is 15 minutes from the airport, and it's my daughter likes the kids club. Lots of activities to do, so something pretty convenient for me.
Yeah, so it's a Category 6 property right now in the World of Hyatt program. I haven't booked any award nights here. I'm on a cash rate for now. Do you guys normally are you finding off-peak nights here? Is it normally peak? Like, what's the, so for perspective, Category 6 is 21,000 to 29,000 points a night for a free night.
Yeah, I mean, I anchored to a time when it was a lot cheaper, but they seem to really pull pretty high rates here. I find that award availability is pretty good booked decently in advance, but it does tend to dry up. The other thing that I find is it comes and goes. So I've set alerts for the availability and just get emails and it shows up.
What service are you using for hotel award availability?
I go back and forth a little bit because there's just pluses and minuses to each of the things. What do you like?
I see we have a Waze integrated into the Built app, but don't have alerts with them right now. But also use Thrifty Traveler's new hotel service, but that's more of a surprise and delight thing rather than exact hotels.
Yeah.
But kind of like you. I think I use everybody. It just depends on what I'm trying to go for.
Somebody had told me that Points added hotels, but I haven't seen that yet.
I haven't checked it out yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I haven't played either. When we look at the different services, sometimes there's cached results, which is often one of these things which to be able to pull a lot of data, they can't really, it's very server intensive. And frankly, they'd make a lot of the programs mad if they were constantly in real time pulling this data. But it also means some of it is not, it has to be checked, when you see it too.
Yeah. All right. Well, a little bit of housekeeping for folks. If you want to text us or leave us a voicemail, 571-293-6659. He is at Curb Points on all those social media channels. I am at Pizza in Motion. You are at Gary Leff, I believe, right?
I am.
The Miles to Go podcast on TikTok and Instagram. And if you want to shoot us an email, ed@pizzainmotion.com. So let's talk a little bit about where we think things are so far. And I'm going to just high level, we're going to focus mostly on the Americas here. In 2023, when voters weighed in on how they felt for the 2022 results of the programs, Air Canada's Aeroplan program was voted Program of the Year. When we think about the Americas, and again, just for folks in the audience, we're setting aside recent changes. We know Southwest is making some changes. We know there have been other changes in award availability. United has drastically increased the price of some of their long-haul flights. We view all those things as 2024 things, so we're thinking more about in 2023 where value was created for members.
But folks are going to have an opportunity to comment on 2024, which you hadn't shared in the lead up. Why are we talking about 2023 and the Freddy Awards now? Because
he's stealing my thunder again. But so we are happy to announce that the Freddys are coming back. We tried to put all the threads together for. Look, nice face.
I'm very happy to hear this as well.
Yeah,
I've been waiting for the announcement.
Yeah, well, you're here for the official announcement. The unofficial official announcement is we tried to pull all the threads together for 2024 Freddys. Couldn't make that happen, but voters will get to weigh in the normal voting period in early 2025, starting in February, and we anticipate having those results in late April at a location to be named shortly. But the contract has been signed, and Freddys will be back in full force next year. Because we don't have the Freddys this year, we figured we'd talk a little bit about what we think is going well and what we think is going poorly.
Do I get to guess where the location is?
Sure.
All right. I think it should be in Laramie, Wyoming.
Perfect. You think I'm going to tell you if you're right?
Home of the University of Wyoming. A lot of space out there for big airplanes and helicopters. Very, very cost effective as well, I'm sure. They're the great convention center and the folks of Laramie, Wyoming.
I think, as soon as we ink the contract for Built to be the title sponsor, I think Laramie, Wyoming sounds like a fabulous
A little
location.
quid pro quo.
If you pay for it, we will come.
Yeah, I hear that a lot these days.
Yeah. All right, so now that we have in the record that the Freddies are coming back in 2025, where do we think things stand? And Gary, since you're our guest, I'm going to put you on the spot first. I think the year before Aeroplan won Program of the Year, if I remember correctly, they were our up-and-coming Program of the Year right before that. So we've definitely seen a rise in the way members perceive their value. Where do you see them now?
Yeah, so here's the thing about Aeroplan. There's a lot to like. I think first of all, the Freddy Awards is going to separate out voting into different pieces, different components of value for a program. So the elite program is separate from the redemption ability, right? The value of your points. And if you're looking at what you can do with points, if you're in North America, you're looking to go to Europe, you're looking to go to Asia, especially in a business class cabin, you're probably going to do the best overall with a Star Alliance airline. They simply have more partners.
Right.
And Air Canada's Aeroplan, in addition to Star Alliance, has more partners outside of the alliance as well than other airlines, and they let you combine those into the same award.
Yep.
They also have friendly things like stopovers. It's not free, but an extra 5,000 miles, you can book the stopover. So nice way of constructing award trips. And for the most part, these things are bookable and priceable online, which is nice. Now, I don't like when I have to call them. Oftentimes I do get more of a wait than I would like if I have to talk to someone on the phone. It's not free to cancel an award like we're used to with a lot of the U.S. programs now. Not terribly priced, but it's not a fee unless you're paying extra miles for the more premium award, in which case that will get bundled in, the changeability. Overall, as a redemption program, I think that Aeroplan is fantastic. I think that as an elite program, their super elite level is very, very good, and that the overall product is a very good, very competitive one. As I say, occasional frustrations with the customer service. I would not vote for them as best customer service in the Freddies,
Right.
but that they are a genuinely top tier loyalty program.
How many Freddy Awards will there be, given the different regions and that y'all are breaking out? Well, we've always had redemptions versus elite status, right? Program.
Yeah, I think if you set aside 210s, I think there's 27 total trophies.
Oh, I think it's more than that, right? Because you've got 5 awards that are given out in airline and hotel per region, and 1 that's given out combined as credit cards. So actually, it's 11 per region in 3 regions, and that doesn't count 210. So 33.
Right. Yeah,
33 awards. And actually, the number of trophies is a little bit more than that, because the credit card, we give a trophy to to the winner and the bank issuer, because they're partnerships in putting those together.
And the 210 awards, for clarity, those are effectively, generally speaking, up and coming loyalty brands, if you will. Maybe not necessarily new, but newly recognized by their members as excelling in the various areas of loyalty.
And the name convention comes from, so in the program of the year voting, the program, it doesn't win, but that is the top vote getter among those that are being ranked by at least 2% of the voters in the category. So there are enough voters to matter, but not more than 10. So they're lesser known in some sense, or fewer voters that are casting their ballot for that program, ranking them one way or another, but driving a very high value to those.
Yeah, when I think about what 2023 looked like for me and where I was finding value, I definitely found a lot of value in Aeroplan. I searched for awards for friends and family, and frequently found myself turning to Aeroplan. Richard, I'm curious, for you, when you think about award availability, customer service, all that stuff, which programs stand out to you as ones that have been excelling over the past year or so?
Alaska continues to just be top of mind for me. There's not really much negative to say about what they're doing. There have been some partner changes and big changes, but everybody was kind of expecting this huge devaluation, which I don't think came to fruition. Still just significant value to be found domestically, American tickets, Alaska tickets themselves. Massive partner network that I think they continue to try and expand.
Partner network.
Yeah.
And I think there was a good reason to expect that there'd be a really big devaluation.
Because it's been so much, anything that I think we taught is, if you're receiving so much value, we all kind of hold our breath every year to be like everybody else has cut that.
But even with Alaska in particular and things that they had done, so every new partner they had brought on, when they had a separate award chart for each partner, They had great value in the older award charts for their longstanding partners.
Yep.
Every new partner they added had a terrible award chart. So all these old contracts that where they were pricing, based on locked in lower prices, still had good value. Everything new they were doing, no longer did. And so, okay, they're creating a new chart. It probably aligns with the direction they seemed to have been going in. And so that's when we expected this terrible devaluation. And then we got what their new distance-based chart was. And there are some things that are, less value, ultra long haul, premium cabin, Qantas, Cathay Pacific kinds of awards from North America, maybe more highly priced, but especially short distance awards are a lot cheaper. All partners together on the same chart. So there's, a lot of, even those expensive awards from before have gotten less expensive now. Overall, both because, relative to expectation and based on overall value, I'm happy with what they've done.
Yeah, and you still find those gems. What I really like is you have Starlux, Fiji Airways, Air Tahiti Nui that you can still catch,
Right.
60,000s to the South Pacific in business class on. Those airlines have a couple new planes as well. And it's, Starlux is new. And I just think that anytime you found nerdy value like that outside of an alliance, I just really enjoy programs that do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I just wish Starlux would do more than one award seat at a time.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the variety, I think Alaska and Aeroplan both stand out in that regard in terms of the breadth of their partner network, and that gives so much more flexibility for points. When we think about the North American centric mind and how people redeem, like we know most folks redeem on the big three carriers, if you will, American, United, Delta, and one of the awards in the Freddies that I always find interesting is Best Elite Program. American has had a fairly good run in this area as far as Freddie voting is concerned. And it's one of those things where, Gary knows this and Richard knows this to a lesser degree. Like you watched me live, years and years and years of American Executive Platinum and at one point implored me to switch to United to try it out for.
And to be fair, there was a reason for that. And it was not because I thought United was like the fundamentally better, but better for your unique situation where you live.
I agree. But I also remember at that time when you guys tried American, it was this, oh yeah, you know what? Like, wow, like they really are doing a little bit more than the other airlines are doing in terms of soft skills, customer service, those sorts of things. I think, like, at least from my standpoint with Best Elite Program, I really struggle when I looked at this to talk about who's really leading the way here. While I think the whole loyalty points scheme that Advantage rolled out is very friendly in terms of being able to earn status, I think to some degree that also probably makes them less valuable as Best Elite Program because I can be an Executive Platinum member without setting foot on a plane. And so while I'm not flying American a lot, notionally what I hear from people is it's harder to qualify for domestic upgrades. It's the same across all the airlines, but the more people fighting for more upgrades, how many loyalty points can you earn? Are you earning enough to be at the top of the spend in each tier? I really struggle to say who I thought was the best elite program in the U.S. And I think push comes to shove, they're all so close right now. If I had to vote right now, I'm honestly not sure who I'd pick.
So I would say there was a time when I felt like American Advantage was head and shoulders as an elite program above peers.
Yeah.
And because of that, I was treated very, very well. When I needed to go somewhere domestically, I would start with AA.com, right? Like I was just going to stick with them and based on what their schedules were. And I made more connections than I probably should have, and maybe even incrementally paid more for a ticket every now and then than I probably should have. But
the entire point of a loyalty program.
I mean, but they were doing a tremendous job of delivering that, right? I think now I actually do think that they are marginally better, but it's only marginally. Now, I don't think the primary issue with upgrades is the elite pool. Now, the loyalty point model has meant more elites in total, but especially at the lower tiers, not necessarily inflating the higher tiers. And the folks that do engage more are still prioritized for those upgrades.
Sure.
The issue is fewer upgrade seats to go around, in large measure because all of the airlines basically monetize those seats for tens of dollars. You can buy often a post-purchase upgrade on American for as little as $40. And when they're doing that, what you're doing is like you're waiting for the leftovers after all of the no status people or some status people who've said, no, the first class seat isn't worth $40 to me. And then there just aren't that many of those. And so then you're like, it's truly left. So when I first was traveling for business and first earning status, only 10% of the seats in a forward cabin were, on paid tickets.
Yeah.
And, Delta a decade ago, it said, look, we've gotten it up to in the low 40s of percentages, but we have a goal of basically not having first class upgrades be a thing, which it's no coincidence that they began to call Comfort Plus an upgrade.
I remember that drove me absolutely nuts. And everybody in Atlanta still talks about, I got upgraded. And I'm like, out of Atlanta as a platinum? They're like, yeah. I'm in 12D. I'm like, okay, you didn't get upgraded.
Or 12B.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you get no seating.
Yeah, there's no.
Right, you're in Comfort Plus.
You didn't get upgraded.
But they haven't gotten rid of them, completely. And of course, some routes you're not going to ever get them, and some form of paid first class, some amount.
Every single Delta flight out of Atlanta, you're not catching an upgrade. They
And
aggressively sell those.
Like you go back to the late 2000s, and I can remember you and I comparing notes, and it was like there were years where I was flying 100,000 miles a year, and I would clear 98 or 99% of my upgrades in the first class, and that's not the case today.
And when you think about that, I think that fundamentally changes the value proposition of being an elite compared to where it used to be.
Right.
It was the number one benefit. And then you say, okay, well, what is really the benefit now? I think about American Advantage and how unless you are a Platinum Pro member or higher, they won't put you on the standby list for a flight at the gate. It's self-serve only. And to show how screwed up this has become, if you're a gold member, you're supposed to be able to stand by if you have a checked bag. But if you have a checked bag, you can't do it on the web or the app.
Yeah.
So if you're a gold or a platinum, you're entitled to stand by, but you are incapable of standing by, right? And I've talked to them about this. They know about this problem, right? And it remains a problem where they don't even deliver the promised benefit. And so the decline there for frankly stupid reasons, right? Some of the legacy of some of the stuff that they say they're trying to jettison is just really hampers the ability to deliver a better experience for customers. So yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable to argue over the elite category. There's not an obvious one winner over everyone.
Well, and when you talk about the benefits of elite status, I think you've mentioned a number of times that you love the agents in the Admirals Club in Austin. And I think back to when I was an elite with American, and it was as an elite member, whether it was the agents in the club or it was calling the executive platinum line, hey, I've got a sick kid at home, I need to get home early, can you help me out? There was a lot of flexibility in those rules. Now with United, I don't see that nearly as much. Now, I knock on wood, I'm global services right now. I have a little bit a higher status than say like the 1K or executive platinum tiers, but it's been a struggle to get those sort of what I would call soft benefits of being an elite member. And I think, Richard, you've had experience on United, American, to some degree Delta over the past, call it 2 or 3 years, going back and forth between Atlanta and New York. And I won't steal your thunder, but I don't know that you've had a terribly different experience than that.
No, I'm actually a free agent right now because everybody is literally the exact same. Mostly disappointing for the upper levels of elite status where, my goal in business travel, right, is to get from A to B at the time promised when I bought the ticket. That's always a goal. The amount of times that's happened this year between Atlanta and New York is less than 50%.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking for the most convenient, most efficient way to get back and forth. If there happens to be some soft benefits and some comfort that makes it easier, great. But traditionally there hasn't been. I mean, even as, the highest of United, like I get upgraded less than 40% of the time on a non-hub route down to Atlanta where everybody should be flying Delta. So last couple of flights have been Southwest to pick up a promotional companion pass. Flown JetBlue with the family earlier this year up to LaGuardia, but they're cutting Atlanta to New York routes as well. So I'm literally just hanging around looking for somebody to take my business, and actually contacted the folks at Delta last week and said, hey, if global services, can I do a diamond challenge? And they're like, nope, highest you can go is platinum. And I'm like, platinum out of Atlanta's not like, oh, that's nice, but like I'm still going to be in the middle seat because I book all my business travel, 48 hours out because things change all the time. That if I do that out of Atlanta on any flight, I'm sitting in the very back of the bus in the middle seat. And I'm like, I just don't even know where to take my business now.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about the overall mix too, when we look at the North American carriers, I think you probably got a really good perspective on redemption ability, which is another category that we see that Aeroplan won this award for the 2023 Freddies. There's definitely a lot of redemption ability there, but I think where I've seen you expand, with the family, whether it's Frontier or Spirit, you've probably redeemed awards on more airlines than most people I know over the past 2 or 3 years. And I'm curious, as you look across all that, set aside that like you've gotten some incredible value out of Frontier, but when you're doing your searches, who do you see has the most availability right now? Where's the easiest places for you to book?
Man, that's it's almost dumb luck, right? Because the family went to Yellowstone last week, and I got Atlanta, Dallas, Jackson, Hole for 5,500 American miles per person.
I remember that. That's an incredible deal.
And it's just happened to stumble upon that when looking at the calendar availability.
Yeah.
Other times, we have to go down to Disney in 3 weeks, and I hadn't booked yet, but Frontier was still $19. And thanks to Frontier Diamond, we get everything included for $19 a person. That's, excellent versus Delta on the route charging 25,000 sky miles per person. It's almost like my redemption strategy is dumb luck of wherever the availability or pricing leads us is where I go. We didn't even have Yellowstone on the radar of a trip until I saw those flights and was like, yeah, looks like you guys are going to Yellowstone because it's such a good. So as far as if I have to go from Atlanta to somewhere on this date, it's literally Google Flights with Points Path now and just seeing what is the best program and trying to be a free agent as much as possible.
Yeah, if you're looking for award availability, obviously it depends on what it is you're looking for, how many seats you're looking for, how far in advance you're looking to book. I think that you're often going to find the best deals not from North American programs. So even if you want to travel, for instance, on a North American airline, transatlantic award availability in premium cabins on JetBlue is really good.
It's like a given.
You're probably not going to use JetBlue's own points for that, right? But they have international partners that offer better values. If you can get if what you want to do is book Qatar Airways Q suites, you generally book those close to schedule open. They do a decent job of opening award space, but you're not going to be able to book those with American Advantage miles. American just doesn't have the access to the partner award space that they used to almost across the board, and that's been a change over the last few years. So, for instance, British Airways has moved to a model where it's the guaranteed availability that they open when the schedule opens is open to Avios programs. American Airlines is a joint venture partner over the Atlantic. They're not supposed. It's supposed to be metal neutral. Shouldn't matter. But for the award purposes, it does. And by the way, when BA did that, American didn't know. Yeah. And so I'm asking them about this, and they're like, "Oh no, of course, there's no change." Oh, okay. So it was a change.
What we really meant was
they no longer have access to the premium cabin space on Etihad in advance. It's much more restrictive with Qatar in advance. Qantas makes availability predominantly for their own members rather than for partners in a way that didn't used to be the case. And so you look at a lot of those best awards and they're partner awards, but the partners don't work as seamlessly with each other. Now, that having been said, sometimes it's pretty easy to gain access to Avios programs that give you not just BA and their fuel surcharges, but to Qatar as well, because they have a tendency to partner with all the U.S. credit card programs, which gives them access to the lucrative U.S. credit card market that they don't necessarily have in their home markets. Right. Air France KLM is another really good one for a lot of award availability at a reasonable price. If you were to use the U.S. partner of theirs, Delta, you don't have access to the same space. The limited number of times that you do, it's at exorbitant rates. So if you wanted to book an Air France business class seat that might cost $50,000 flying Blue miles, you would have 200,000 plus Delta miles for the same seat. The reverse being true as well. If what you wanted to do was book seat on Delta saver that they offer to their partners in business, right, might be charging 250,000 Delta miles for that same seat. So a fraction of the cost booking the Delta seat through a partner instead of Delta. So on the redemption side, it's easy to say where the value isn't. Yeah. Right. it's clearly not there. And then you say, okay, well, some of the other programs like Southwest, look, the seats are always available.
Right.
If what you want is to travel on Southwest, they
Right.
do have in the chute, partners finally.
And red eyes, which open up a little bit more flexibility to move from Hawaii to the East Coast.
Access to Hawaii, but in terms of taking you to Europe, where you couldn't. I mean, they've announced Iceland Air, but a plan to have more partners as well. So that'll entail redemption ability as well. But historically, they haven't had partners, so it's been limited. You just have on the basis of whatever the seats available are, and the value of their points has declined markedly since introducing Rapid Rewards 2.0. We've seen over 40% devaluation of the points. So each point goes, frankly, a lot less far. And I think that has to go into the question of the redemption value.
Yeah, I agree. And I think to your point on Delta, I think where I've seen Delta over the past handful of years, I racked up a bunch of Delta points during the pandemic. And typically where I find with Delta now is it really is focused on sort of like one of two buckets, either using some sort of a service. So like, for example, previous sponsor of the pod, Thrifty Traveler, like I will get occasional alerts from them on incredible Delta Sky Miles deals. Delta themselves has flash awards a few times a year where there are reasonable offers for things
and unreasonable. There was they're promoting a sale that I looked at today as we're recording.
Yep.
One of the city pairs I was looking at advertised as a sale price was Miami to Seoul, business class, 800,000 miles.
Well, it's probably a discount from the normal million.
I mean.
But yeah, to your point, like not all flash sales are a deal, but I think I don't start my award searches at Delta for sure. If I see a deal pop up, I might consider burning down my Sky Miles balance. I think what I see, I would say for redemption ability, I think probably pure redemption ability is probably United in my opinion right now. That being said, I think, Aeroplan, there's a difference between the two. So typically what I see is that Aeroplan will have good availability, but you typically have some level of cash copay. And United will have, a higher per mile per price for the seat. So depending on how somebody wants to book a trip, if they're looking to be able to redeem their miles and not come out of pocket for cash, I think when I think about redemption ability that way, I think United is doing a good job of making seats available for a low cash component. In terms of the overall value, I'd say I get more value out of Aeroplan.
Easily.
But in terms of redemption ability, the ability to use my miles to redeem for tickets, I do think United, setting aside the recent massive changes on some of the long-haul stuff, my experience in 2023 was, typically, like I had Japan booked, and I had 55,000 mile one-way tickets from Dallas to Tokyo on JAL, which was a fabulous deal. And then leading up to our trip, a handful of weeks before departure, United dropped a ton of Tokyo inventory. And so the pricing was very similar at that point, and it came with, the standard, $5.60 fee per ticket, versus Aeroplan was showing those same awards, and there were, a few $100s in fees per ticket.
So, I mean, first there's the $35 partner redemption fee that Aeroplan has. Mm-hmm. And then, yes, there are some of the fees on U.S. departures that United will eat. Mm-hmm. In terms of overall value.
But they're eating it and charging you more miles, to be clear.
Like
United,
frankly, a lot more in most cases. And so I would say that, look, to be clear, Aeroplan does not have fuel surcharges anymore. They got rid of those with the program refresh that they did. And so to me, it's not even close. The only thing that you're going to find more valuable, I think, with United, if you're a U.S.-based traveler and you want access to increased availability on United, right? So Air Canada is giving you access to that saver space. If you're willing to spend more miles than the lowest level to fly United, you're not going to get that from Air Canada. Of course, Air Canada has that on its own metal.
For sure.
So where you are based and the kinds of awards that you would consider are going to matter in terms of that value calculation. But if you're location independent and you're looking at availability and pricing on lowest award inventory, I would take Aeroplan in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and I think geographically, at least for me in the Northeast, being able to connect through the Air Canada hubs in the Northeast, and I would say similarly, though I haven't done this research, similarly I would imagine in the Northwest, if you can connect through Vancouver, like those are viable options. I think for the normal traveler, the further away you are from being able to reach an Air Canada hub, the harder it would be to utilize them for the overseas stuff.
Although I'd say if you're actually flying Air Canada rather than another star partner and you're connecting through Vancouver or Toronto, spend the incremental miles that gets you the refundability on the award, because it also gets you access to their signature suite, which is head and shoulders above United's Polaris lounges.
For sure. For people who live in either a hub city in the U.S. or a big enough secondary city that they can connect to those places, I think it's a great option. It's the people who might live in a tertiary city and might have to go, from a tertiary city in Florida to a hub and then ultimately to Toronto to get overseas. That's probably too many jumps for the average family.
But look, if you were flying, say, out of Washington Dulles and just on a Star Alliance airline, right, I'm going to take Aeroplan over United for that same seat.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Welcome back, Mr. Kerr.
Thank you.
Been one of those days, huh?
Always something.
Yeah, it is always something. So I won't put you on the spot for best credit card.
Too bad.
I know, but I will ask you a question, just because we're at this crossroads here, and I know I think it's a good place for us to close out. I know it's been a bit of a dilemma for you, just based on how much you bounced around with trying to get back and forth between Atlanta and New York and finding an airline that you can rely on. You've sort of intimated the Delta status challenge, trying to get status with them. But at this point, do you feel like you've run out of options and have to fold yourself back into being hub captive?
Yeah, it's something that Howie and you and I have joked for a couple of years now.
We really have.
By 2025, Kerr's just going to be on Delta because it's just the most convenient option that's there. And I'm just trying to avoid it because I don't want to collect Sky Miles. I just don't want to.
Sure.
I don't want to be in the back of the bus every time. I don't want to I don't want to stand in line for Sky Club in Atlanta. Yeah. Like, even if you get in the Sky Club, I'm in the club maybe because I have a meeting or a call I have to take, and there's nowhere quiet or private to do that in the Sky Clubs in Atlanta.
No.
Like, I don't want to do that, but it's like literally forcing my hand now. I thought Southwest would be a viable option. Now with their entire changes, I don't see that being the case anymore for me.
Because the schedule changes, not the... Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They've cut half the routes out of Atlanta now, so my companion pass would be that much less valuable. Now I got to connect to 15 more potential destinations. So it's just looking at me in the face. But then I'm like, so do I fly Delta, but I fly as a Flying Blue Elite that I have from the status match from the day job?
Yeah.
And then I get all the benefits there as well. And then, but then I don't have lounge access. I don't have lounge access.
You don't, but you also, Comfort Plus is only at.
But the thing is, I'm not going to, by the time I book tickets to Atlanta, Comfort Plus is already full. Like, I'm not going to get Comfort.
I thought you got lounge access.
You got to be a flying international Sky Team. Sky Team's the one alliance that does not have lounge access figured out. It's really kind of weird. But that way I don't like, and then I'm getting Flying Blue miles, which I value much more than Delta Sky miles, because premium cabins are now a realistic option for reasonable amounts of Flying Blue miles today. Like, is that an option that I do? I have Sky Priority and get that. Like,
you're going to get priority check-in or priority boarding.
But I do get to pick preferred seats. Again, preferred the way Delta is, just closer to the front of the plane. It's
free checked bags on your business trips.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're doing that all the time, right? Like,
if Expert Flyer still had the ability to track Delta seat maps, I think you would be able to get into Comfort Plus enough. You'd figure out the patterns, but it's just so hard to see.
Especially to New York. I mean, there's a flight. The good news, right? There's a flight every 45 minutes to one of the 3 airports.
Sure.
So if I got to get home or I got to get somewhere, I'm going to get there in the back of the bus in the middle. But then, I don't know. What would you get in my situation? Since I've tried everybody now, I can't do Newark anymore. Newark is just too much of a disaster this whole last year, trying to get in and out of New York. Like, are you just sucking up and flying Delta?
Look, I mean, I think you're flying the schedule. It's not that long a flight, frankly.
Right. Until you sit at the gate or on the tarmac for an hour and a half. Yeah, that's always the New York challenge.
Unless we were to somehow see a return of American JetBlue and a robust schedule.
I just rest in peace, American Embraer. Oh, this is the best.
And that obviously was the better option. Southwest not an option. I wouldn't go to Newark. I don't think it's better to be flying United coach into Newark than flying Delta coach. They're marginally more reliable. Like, you fly them and you say, look, okay, credit if you want to credit to Flying Blue. I mean, it doesn't matter. No. You're probably going to be in the back, but the bulk of your mileage earning probably isn't going to come from the actual short flights between Atlanta and New York, and so you're not really giving up that much on the mileage, like, redemption ability side.
Yeah.
So
I think it's just going to be that time, 2025, where I just go to the hometown airline just for convenience. I think
you're not going to connect.
Right. No.
Like,
There's no more beating the system. With American LaGuardia, you quote unquote beat the system because it was non-hub to non-hub up front on Embraer every time, collecting advantage miles. It was great. Upgrade cleared every time, 5 days out each way. That was when commuting was not stressful. Since that route's gone away, it's all about getting rid of as much stress as possible and not wasting my time is all I'm looking for. And I think that Delta is the answer for that.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I mean, I'm going to be really interested to see where you end up with the other benefits of elite status if you're committed to Delta. So how many times you actually do get upgraded to Comfort Plus? How many times when you have a problem, they help you with some sort of an exception, if you will? Because I don't think you're going to hit the spend requirement for Diamond.
No, definitely not.
So knowing that you're not going to hit the spend requirement, it's like, well, when you're in a pinch that 3 or 4 times a year that something goes wrong and you need help, do you get that sort of soft skill benefit from them? How many times, if you fly back and forth 30 times, how many times do you actually earn a non-middle Comfort Plus seat? So
we'll see.
What you're going to do at that point is buy a ticket on a different carrier when something goes wrong. I mean,
backup.
That's basically what you're going to do.
Have a business select Southwest refundable backup.
Because United to Newark is your other option. You'll at least have Economy Plus, right, at booking
ish.
No,
it's always there. Yeah,
out of Atlanta,
may not be an aisle seat, but probably middle, but wherever.
But again, then you're at Newark, and if you were going to Staten Island, that would make all the sense in the world. But you're not.
Yeah.
So you're gonna fly Atlanta LaGuardia on Delta.
I think it's interesting. I'll close with saying this: if you end up in a Comfort Plus seat, whether it's a middle or an aisle, whatever, over the course of a year. Like, that's a significant drop in productivity over the course of 30 or 40 flights, just because it's I can't work in that seat, and I'm 5-6 inches shorter than you. So just the physical space and the laptop and all that stuff, it is a real challenge.
It was a clown car, so like I said, flying Southwest the last couple flights, and they've been on like the Dash 700s in the old interior, and I'm like sitting there on the flight to Austin trying to write these like welcome cards. Like, I gave up 10 minutes into that exercise because there's just no shot of me.
It's amazing, it's, even if you're not in the exit row on Southwest, the 800s and the Max 8s, the extra inch of room is material.
Yeah,
which is going away.
Yeah.
Well, but a third of the seats are going to be extra legroom seats that they'll charge a premium for. Presumably, people are going to wind up in that with a third of the seats. On a lot of routes, people are going to wind up on them without paying. But yeah, they're going to have to squeeze that to generate the extra legroom, and they're not going to do the Frontier thing about selling blocked middles either because they decided it was too hard, which is, I think, kind of a shame.
Well, remains to be seen. You never know. It may roll out.
Well, they said at Investor Day they said no. But.
Yeah. Well, they said no to a lot of things that are happening right now. So anyway, Gary, thanks for joining us. Quick 30-second tease for. If you want to join our Slack community, we have weekly happy hours, and there are a bunch of different channels where you can ask questions of travel experts like Mr. Kerr and myself. We haven't dragged Gary on for happy hour, but we need to do that at some point. Mr. Kerr, thanks for inviting me down to get to my first taste of seeing Hyatt Regency Lost Pines. I really like the property.
I love this place, yeah. I'm excited about the next couple of days and little surprises we have planned.
I love surprises. I've enjoyed what we've had so far. Can't wait to reveal it all to our viewers and our listeners. A lot more to come. Hopefully we get to stick the microphone in front of a few other people over the course of the next 24, 48 hours. But until we upload again, we've got miles to go.